What happens when a CEO steps into one of his own daycare centers and sees a toddler crying in the corner while every staff member pretends not to hear? Liam, Keller stood inside his office, staring at the quarterly report. The numbers looked fine, but something about the customer satisfaction scores bothered him. One location, store 12, had dropped below acceptable. It was the only daycare in the 20-location chain that had complaints about staff being cold or disengaged. He had bought the company 5 years ago from a retired couple, and while he'd modernized the business and expanded it, he never got too involved in day-to-day operations. That was supposed to be the job of his district managers, but now something didn't sit right. He called up the employee files for store 12. None of the current staff had ever met him. Most had been hired within the last 2 years. No photos of him hung in the centers. He'd always preferred to stay behind the scenes. And since it was a corporate chain, he knew a well-done disguise would be enough. So he put on his plan: an interview for a part-time assistant trainee position. He shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and wore thick glasses. A fake resume and a new name, Tom, sealed the deal. A week later, he walked into store 12 in khakis and a plain polo, acting nervous like someone new to childcare. The manager, a woman in her early 40s named Carrie, barely looked up from her phone when he introduced himself. "You're the new guy, follow me," she said flatly. "Let's get this over with." The center looked cheerful on the surface: painted walls, tiny chairs, toys, but something felt off. The kids weren't smiling much. The staff didn't interact unless necessary. It was quiet in the wrong way. Carrie handed him a clipboard. "Just observe today, don't touch the kids, we'll see if we keep you." "Got it," he said, tucking the clipboard under his arm. He walked into the toddler room where a dozen little ones waddled, played, or sat quietly. One of them, a little girl with curly hair and a pink sweater, stood crying in the corner, face red and streaked with tears. Liam froze. He looked around. 2 staff members were in the room, one scrolling on her phone behind the desk, the other wiping down a table and humming. Neither even glanced at the girl. He crouched down next to her. "Hey there," he said softly. "What's wrong?" the girl hiccuped. "I dropped my bunny." Liam looked under the table and saw a stuffed bunny lying there. He grabbed it and handed it over. She clutched it tight and hugged him around his neck. The staff member wiping the table looked up. "You're not supposed to pick them up," she said sharply. "We don't do coddling." "Seriously," Liam stood up. "She's been crying for 10 minutes. The woman rolled her eyes. "They cry all the time. If we gave in every time, we'd never get anything done." Liam's heart pounded. He tried to stay calm. Later that afternoon, he sat in the break room during lunch. 2 younger women sat nearby, chatting. "I swear, if I have to hear one more kid scream over a lost toy, I'm walking out," one said, laughing. The other nodded. "They're so spoiled. We just let them cry it out." Carrie doesn't care. Liam clenched his jaw after lunch. He helped gather the kids for story time. One boy, Damien, wouldn't sit still. A staff member grabbed his arm hard and yanked him onto the mat. "Sit down," she snapped. Damien looked terrified. Liam stepped forward. Hey, maybe he just needs a second." The woman glared at him. "You're new, stay in your lane." That night, Liam sat in his car, hands on the wheel, staring through the windshield. He felt sick. He had trusted his managers, trusted the culture he'd built. But this center, it was broken. And tomorrow, he was going to dig deeper. The next morning, Liam arrived 20 minutes early, before the center opened. A light drizzle dusted the sidewalk as he waited in his car, watching the staff trickle in. Most moved slowly, dragging their feet as though already worn down. One woman, maybe in her 20s, carried 2 large tote bags and limped slightly as she walked. She struggled with the front door until someone inside finally buzzed her in without a greeting. When Liam entered a few minutes later, Carrie was already in the office, sipping coffee and leafing through a printed schedule. Her tone was sharp as she greeted him. "Hope you're not expecting hand-holding today. We're short 2 people again, so you'll be in the 1-year-old room. Stay out of the way and don't make a mess." "I'll do whatever's needed," Liam replied, keeping his voice even. She didn't respond, just waved him off with a flick of her hand. In the 1-year-old room, he found the young woman with the limp from earlier. She was already on the floor, surrounded by crawling toddlers, one of whom had spit up on her shoulder. She looked up, blinking as if she hadn't slept. "You must be Tom," she said, brushing her sleeve with a damp wipe. "I'm Jamie. You're with me today. Just help where you can." Our float called out again. She didn't smile, but her tone wasn't cold, just tired. She moved carefully, favoring one leg, but she was attentive. Unlike the others he'd seen the day before, she spoke gently to the kids, crouched to their level, and guided them with quiet patience. As they settled into the routine diaper changes, bottle feedings, and cleanup, Liam started noticing the cracks. There were only 2 adults assigned to 10 infants. That was barely within ratio standards, and Jamie seemed to be carrying most of the workload. The other staffer assigned to the room, a tall man named Derek, spent more time standing near the doorway than interacting with the kids. When Jamie asked him if he could prep the bottles, he sighed loudly. "You always want something." "I'll get to it when I can." "You're literally standing still," she said, not raising her voice. "Just please do it." Derek threw his hands up and walked out of the room. Liam watched Jamie close her eyes for a second, exhaling through her nose before turning back to a crying baby. She picked the child up with practiced care, gently bouncing and shushing him. Liam stepped in. "Can I help with the bottles? I've done it before," she nodded. "Yeah, thank you. They're labeled by name, timings on the fridge." By mid-morning, the room smelled faintly of disinfectant and sweat. Jamie worked steadily, but Liam could see her wincing each time she crouched. During a lull as the babies napped, he leaned over to her. "Are you okay? Your leg, it looks painful," she hesitated. "Old injury, torn ligament 3 years ago, never healed right, can't afford the surgery." "But I keep showing up." "You ever get any support from management, time off, or even just someone to help lighten the load?" She gave a short laugh. "Carrie said if I needed time off, I shouldn't work here. That was her exact sentence, so I don't ask anymore." Liam felt his stomach turn. He glanced around the dim room. The blinds were drawn, and the only sound was the soft hum of a white noise machine. Later in the afternoon, they moved the infants into the play area, rotating activities. Liam noticed one child, a boy named Ezra, sitting alone under a shelf with his face to the wall. He wasn't crying, just rocking slightly. "Is he okay?" Liam asked. Jamie looked over. Ezra's speech delayed, doesn't like crowds. "Usually I let him sit quietly, then work him into group stuff." As she walked over to coax him out, Derek returned, chewing gum and holding a half-empty energy drink. "Hey," Liam said quietly, "you were gone almost 40 minutes. Jamie's been barely holding this place together." Derek stared at him. "Don't start. You're new. You don't know how this place works." "I know enough to see she's doing the work of 3 people while you disappear." Derek stepped closer. "You want to take this up with someone, be my guest." "Nobody here cares. Carrie knows how I work." Jamie didn't say anything. She just looked away. During closing cleanup, Liam volunteered to mop while Jamie sanitized toys. Derek vanished again. When Liam returned to the break room to grab his jacket, he overheard voices through the cracked office door. Carrie was inside, talking to someone on speakerphone. "I don't care if she's limping. Jamie's not a martyr. She's just stubborn. If she drops, we'll replace her." "Everyone's replaceable." Liam stepped back before the door opened. Carrie walked out, saw him, and frowned. "You done for the day?" He nodded. "Yeah, long one." She looked him up and down. "You might last a week. Maybe don't get too eager, you'll burn out." He didn't respond. That evening, he called the district HR partner who oversaw multiple centers. He introduced himself without the disguise. "I need personnel files for Store 12, full records, especially for Carrie, Derek, and Jamie." There was a pause. Then the HR partner said, "Understood." "May I ask what prompted this?" "You'll see," Liam said. "Also, I want to know how this location's been passing compliance checks. I'll get the reports over by morning." As he hung up, Liam stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The mask of Tom was still on, but the decision was made. He had seen enough. Tomorrow he would stop observing. Tomorrow the reckoning would begin. Liam arrived at Store 12 without the disguise. He wore a clean button-down and dark slacks. The name tag on his chest read Liam Keller. No glasses, no dyed hair, no pretense. He stood just inside the lobby entrance, watching as the first few parents dropped off their children. The front desk staff greeted them with forced politeness, barely lifting their eyes from the computer. No one noticed him until Carrie walked out of her office, holding a clipboard. She stopped mid-step when she saw him, her eyes narrowed. "Can I help you?" "Yes," he said calmly. "I'm here to speak with the full staff." Immediately, Carrie tilted her head. "You don't have an appointment." "I'm Liam Keller," he said, "owner of this company." The silence was immediate. The front desk staff froze. A father holding his toddler looked between them and slowly stepped outside. Carrie blinked, mouth parting slightly. "You're the new." "I was undercover," Liam said. "And I saw more than enough. Get everyone, now." She didn't argue, not directly. She simply turned and briskly walked toward the break room. Within 10 minutes, every employee was gathered in the main playroom. Jamie leaned against a shelf in the back, arms crossed, clearly unsure what was happening. Derek stood with his hands in his hoodie pocket, chewing gum. The rest looked confused, some uneasy. Liam stood before them. "I've owned this company for 5 years. I've trusted my district managers and on-site leadership to uphold our values. I believed we were running centers that put children's well-being first, supported our staff, and created safe, nurturing environments. This week, I realized I was wrong, at least in this location." He turned toward Carrie. "You let this place rot under your leadership. You ignored crying children, allowed staff to neglect basic care, and dismissed serious medical needs from your own team. You created a culture where empathy was treated as weakness." Carrie's voice was tight. "I've kept this place running. We're always short-staffed. They complain, but they show up. You don't understand what it's like down here." "I do now. And what I saw isn't a staffing issue, it's a leadership issue," he said. "You're done here, effective immediately." Carrie's face flushed. "You can't." "I can. And I just did." She opened her mouth again but didn't speak. Instead, she grabbed her bag from a cubby and walked out, jaw clenched. Liam turned to Derek. "You regularly left your post during shifts. You refused tasks, undermined coworkers, and yesterday you physically handled a child in a way that violates state standards and our own policies." Derek shifted uncomfortably but didn't speak. "Go clean out your things." "You're finished." Derek dropped his gum into a tissue, tossed it into a trash bin, and left without a word. The room was still. Liam scanned the remaining staff. "I'm not here to punish the people doing the work. I'm here to protect children and support the ones who show up for them every day. That starts now." He looked at Jamie. "You've been holding this room together under impossible conditions. You've been doing the jobs of others while managing your own chronic injury." Jamie looked startled. I didn't expect. You shouldn't have had to carry this place." "You're not alone anymore. Starting today, you're promoted to interim lead. Additional support staff are already being reassigned here from other locations, and I've scheduled a private medical consultation for you on the company's dime." No questions asked. Jamie's eyes didn't tear up, but her grip on the shelf behind her tightened. She gave a brief nod. "I'll do my best," she said. "I know," he replied. "I saw it myself." He turned to the rest of the staff. "A new regional supervisor will arrive by tomorrow. We're conducting interviews for a new center manager immediately. I'll personally review every applicant, and I'm installing a rotating schedule for upper management, including myself, to spend full days at each location every quarter. No more distance from the ground floor." One of the younger staff members raised her hand hesitantly. Liam nodded at her. I'm sorry, Is it true you were working as Tom this week?" "It is," Liam said. "I wanted to see the truth without filters." She glanced down. "I said some things I shouldn't have. About the kids. I didn't know." "This isn't about me," he said. "This is about them." He gestured toward the window where the toddlers were napping. "If you're here just to get through the day, this won't be the place for you. But if you care, if you're willing to do better with support, with fair expectations, then I will invest in you. But I won't tolerate apathy. Not around children." The staff was silent. No one objected. No one defended what had been allowed to happen. Liam nodded once. "Break's over in 5 minutes. Let's finish the day right." He stepped out of the room and walked to the front office. A parent stood there, waiting, mid-30s, tired eyes, holding a diaper bag. "Are you the owner?" she asked. "I am. I heard what you just did. I was about to pull my son out. I've been so worried, but thank you," he nodded. "You shouldn't have had to worry. You were right to expect more. We'll earn that trust back." She nodded and walked toward the toddler room. As the door closed behind her, Liam sat down at Carrie's now vacant desk. The HR files were already open on the screen. He began typing notes, logging what he'd seen, drafting new hiring guidelines, and flagging red flag behaviors that would no longer be tolerated. He didn't look away from the screen when the soft clatter of toys reached his ears from down the hall. He didn't need to. He knew the work had just started. By the end of the week, the air inside Store 12 had shifted, but not in the way that sweeping reforms usually promised in glossy corporate memos. The change was quiet, methodical, and grounded in what could realistically be done with the resources at hand. Liam remained on site, not as an observer, but as a transitional leader. He took over Carrie's old responsibilities temporarily, sitting in on staff rotations, reviewing incident logs, and holding one-on-one conversations that were long overdue. On Monday morning, Jamie walked into the office using a cane. Her limp was more pronounced than usual, but she moved with purpose. Liam was already at the desk, reviewing the revised budget allocations for emergency staffing support. "Morning," she said, setting a paper folder on the desk. "I finished the room assessments you asked for." He looked up. "Thanks for doing that. Did you get through the whole checklist? Every room?" "I also added notes on which kids need sensory breaks. The previous schedule didn't include that." "That's helpful," he said, flipping open the folder. "You know the kids better than anyone here." "I trust your judgment." She took a seat across from him, letting out a measured breath. "I've been thinking about something. If we're restructuring, we should rethink the intake process. New kids get dropped in cold. No transition plan, no parent meetings. It sets everyone up to fail." He nodded slowly. "We can build that in. I'll talk to the regional director about extending the onboarding period. We'll need to budget for extra shadowing hours." "I don't mind training the new floaters," Jamie said. "But I'd like to help write the new orientation materials. We can't keep losing people because the first week burns them out." Liam met her eyes. "Done. And I want you to think seriously about applying for the permanent manager role." Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on the handle of her cane. "I don't have a degree," she said. "I've got 10 years in the field, but no formal leadership training." "You have what matters. You see people. That's rare." She hesitated. "I'll think about it." By Wednesday, the replacement floaters had arrived, 2 temporary staff from nearby centers who knew the company's systems and could hit the ground running. Liam didn't sugarcoat the situation when he met with them. "This center is in recovery," he told them. "You're not here to coast, you're here to stabilize." They nodded and stepped in without complaint. The tone among the remaining original staff was uneven. Some adjusted quickly, grateful for the support. Others remained guarded, unsure whether the changes were performative or permanent. One of the younger assistants, a woman named Lee, approached Liam during cleanup that afternoon. "I didn't know who you were at first," she said, wiping down a stack of plastic bins. "But I'm glad you came. It was getting hard to breathe in here." He kept stacking blocks, not breaking rhythm. "What would help you stay long-term?" he asked. "Team leads who actually follow through, fair rotations, and time to eat lunch without watching 10 kids at once. We're working on all 3, but I need people who speak up when things go sideways." She gave a nod, more serious than he'd expected. "All right, I will." That evening, once the kids were gone and the rooms quiet, Liam called a staff meeting in the main play area. Everyone sat in child-sized chairs, legs folded awkwardly, the smell of lemon cleaner still fresh in the air. "I know this has been a jarring week," he began. "Some of you are wondering how long I'll be here. The answer is, until the structure is strong enough to stand without me." He looked around at their faces, some tired, some skeptical, a few cautiously hopeful. "This isn't a clean sweep, it's a rebuild. That means things will be messy before they get better, but the foundation matters, and the foundation is you." He reached into a folder and pulled out a printed list. "Effective next week, we're implementing a revised shift rotation that ensures no one works more than 6 hours without a break. We're also adjusting ratios during high-volume hours by bringing in 2 part-time aides during the morning and late afternoon rush." A few heads turned. That was the first concrete scheduling change they'd heard. "We've identified the highest need kids and matched them with key staff who have shown the most success in de-escalation." We're also piloting a feedback system for staff to report concerns anonymously, which will be reviewed weekly by regional leadership. Someone in the back, an older assistant named Mel, raised her hand. What happens if we report something and nothing gets done? That's what used to happen. Then it means I've failed, Liam said, and I don't plan to. Mel nodded once, then lowered her hand. Jamie stood up slowly. I want to add something. The past few years, a lot of us stopped believing anyone was listening. I don't know if this will fix everything. But I know we've already seen more change in a week than we did in the last 2 years. Silence followed, not from awkwardness, but from the weight of truth. Liam let it sit, then said, You're not invisible here. That ends now. The next day, Liam met with the regional director in his car before driving to another center. The woman, Marissa Tran, had brought updated audit results from the past 3 months. This center should have flagged earlier, she admitted, handing over the file. Carrie manipulated the documentation. She logged phantom compliance trainings. Liam flipped through the pages, jaw tight. We're reviewing every other center she oversaw. I want unannounced visits logged and photo verified. I'll handle it personally, Marissa said. He looked at her. And I want every manager retrained on staff wellness. If someone comes in limping for 6 months and nobody asks why, that tells me we have a cultural problem. Understood. By Friday, Jamie had completed her draft of the new orientation packet. She handed it to Liam in the break room, where he was eating carrot sticks between calls. I added sections on trauma-informed care and how to redirect without escalation, she said, and a reminder that kids aren't little robots, they're people. He closed the folder and tapped it gently. This is solid. I'll submit it to be part of the standard onboarding across all locations. I appreciate that, she said, but I didn't write it for corporate approval. I wrote it for the next tired 20-year-old who walks in thinking they have to yell to be heard. He nodded. That's exactly why it matters. Later that evening, after closing, Liam walked through each room one last time. Toys were shelved neatly. Cribs were clean. The scent of bleach lingered faintly, but the space felt calmer. Outside, the sky had dipped into dusk. Jamie stood at the door, locking up. Long week, she said. Long overdue, he replied. He paused before heading to his car. If you decide to apply for manager, I'll make sure you have a mentor to support you, someone who's been through the process. And if not whatever role you want here, you'll have it. She watched him for a moment, then said, I'll apply, but only if I can keep doing floor hours. You can, he said. We need people in charge who still kneel down to talk to a crying kid. She nodded once, then turned the key in the door. As he walked to his car, Liam didn't feel triumphant. He felt responsible. The kind of responsibility that doesn't end with a press release or a photo op, just a promise to keep showing up, especially when it's uncomfortable. The center lights dimmed behind him. The real work had begun. And this time, it wasn't just on paper.